Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this. If you have more money in crypto than you have in your bank account, welcome to the 1% of insane yet wise investors. You know, it's not that we're crazy for investing into crypto. We're actually smarter than most people because we figured out that you could invest in crypto and get financial freedom from it with very little investment. It's like the one last opportunity for the average person to make a lot of money. That's what crypto is. And a lot of people are going to walk away from crypto as multimillionaires, millionaires. The bank is not going to give you that opportunity. You could stack as much cash as you want into a checking account, and guess what they're giving you? Less than 1% on your money. That's why I think stablecoins are going to gain a lot of mainstream momentum. Speaking of rewards, did we mention you can now earn 5% rewards on RLUSD? You know, everybody's in such a hurry to cash out their crypto and send the money to the bank. Why would you ever even want to send it to the bank? You could store it in RLUSD and get 5% rewards on that RLUSD. The bank isn't going to give you 5%. And that's why I said passive income is going to be huge very soon. I mean, everybody's going to be getting returns on their crypto. That's why I don't see a need. I don't even see how the banks are going to continue to compete with this space. The traditional banking system, it's losing customers all the time because it's stuck in the old ways. You know, you want to take a loan, you got to go to the bank. And then you pay interest on that loan through the bank. And the bank, you might have money in your checking account and it's not even making you enough interest to pay the loan that you just took. With passive income in crypto, you could be earning off of your XRP, and you could be paying back a loan that you took against your XLM. There's going to be so many better options than the traditional banking system. 23 million RLUSD minted by Ripple in 24 hours. And this time it happened on the XRP ledger as well. But you know, this shows you that there's demand for RLUSD. And it's going to gain more and more traction as we go forward. This is just the beginning. I just want to see some of that value show up in the price of XRP. That's what I'm really waiting for. XRP H11, the world's first XRP ETF, another crypto milestone on the Brazilian stock exchange. Hashdex just launched XRP H11, giving investors secure and regulated access to XRP, one of the leading crypto assets focused on fast, low-cost international payments. XRP H11 is Hashdex's 9th crypto ETF in Brazil and our 33rd product globally. We continue expanding across the crypto economy, offering investors trusted, regulated, and efficient ways to participate in the future of finance. So the first XRP ETF in Brazil. And we have another ETF going live soon. ProShares taps into XRP's momentum with new futures ETFs set for April 30th launch. That's this coming week. I'm hoping we get to see some value come from this early on. Maybe this week is when we finally get to see XRP really start to move up in price. I just want to go into price discovery because I know the FOMO when that happens is going to be absolutely epic. You're going to have everybody wanting to jump into XRP when that happens. And you're going to have all kinds of price predictions. Everybody's going to be saying, here we go, $50 next for XRP, $100 next for XRP. And at the same time, you're going to have buyers at all different price points on the way up. And you're going to have people selling off on the way up as well. People are going to think the top is in time and time again, only to watch XRP go higher. It is going to be a very exciting time. And I think it starts with these ETFs. This comes from Vincent Van Code. And the Chainlink XRP argument is still ongoing. To all the people touring Chainlink and HBAR as a fix for Swift, just saying, Swift doesn't transfer value. It is pure messaging. So now you want to integrate a broken messaging system with a modern DLT. What will happen? What problem will you solve? Even if Swift replaces Nostro Vostro with blockchain and crypto, but keeps the same interfaces, they would still face old messaging bottlenecks, trust and reconciliation delays, underuse of blockchain capabilities, regulatory and compliance inefficiencies. They'd basically be putting a Ferrari engine in a horse cart. I thought that was great, but it's true. This is why XRP and Ripple is the future. Take a listen to Brad here.
I think we are moving into a new world order. I think the internet of value, Ripple talks a lot about what payments look like, not just today, but in 10, 20 years. And when we think about that, we talk about this internet of value. How do we let value move the way information moves today? I think about the dynamic between Ripple and Swift, not dissimilar to the dynamic between, when Amazon in 1997, 1998, and you got Walmart. Certainly it's a David and Goliath kind of classic story. I think that the challenge is you're dealing with, when Ripple thinks about the future of the internet of value, really democratizing payments, reducing costs dramatically, increasing speed dramatically, we're really thinking about it the same way we introduced new technologies like TCP/IP and HTTP that became the internet of information. When we talk about what the Swift network is today, it's kind of a closed network. It has a lot of members on it for sure, but AOL had a lot of members. And when we moved into the age of the internet and a decentralized, democratic network, I think that what you're seeing introduced with blockchain technologies, and by the way, it's not just Ripple. When we think about interoperability, we think about interoperability between many blockchains. And I think that the future we see is certainly one of many networks, interoperable networks, and reducing the friction of those payments to close to zero. And I think you're going to see a lot of innovation spawn from that, part from Ripple and part from an entire ecosystem. So I'll also agree very much with what Godfrey said at the end. Competition has clearly been a good thing for Swift. I think that I do think what has happened at GPI is a big step forward. For 40 plus years, we had a construct around how cross-border correspondent banking worked. It worked, but it had a lot of limitations. We're seeing that move forward. But I think it's a step forward when you're switching from kind of, if I may, horse and buggy to, hey, can we make the horse and buggy go faster? Sure, but if we can actually just move to a Ferrari, let's do that.
That was one of the best clips of Brad Garlinghouse, because he's sitting there with the guy from Swift and he's pretty much telling him, listen, your system is outdated. It needs to be fixed. You're not going to fix all the problems. And that's why Ripple and XRP will continue to steal more and more business away from Swift over time. But I do believe that Brad is, what he's trying to tell you is, it's not just going to be Ripple and XRP. There's going to be other networks involved as well. I really am a huge fan of HBAR. I see all the growth around HBAR. And HBAR and Ripple coming together in the new financial system is going to be absolutely incredible. Chainlink is also going to play a very important role. But what sets XRP apart is this. It unlocks on-demand liquidity. And it also, RippleNet isn't just messaging. It's also settlement as well. All Swift does is messaging, not settlement. That's the main difference. That's why we will eventually see Ripple replace Swift. And hopefully that can now get put to rest, because every single day I see people arguing about this. They're either arguing that there's no way Ripple will ever replace Swift, or they're saying that it's not Ripple as the future, it's Chainlink, or it's Hedera. I think it's going to be a handful of cryptocurrencies working together that's going to replace Swift. But XRP is going to play the most important role because it settles and it delivers ODL. Mark T. Ueda, SEC Commissioner, suggested on April 25th that the SEC should expand qualified crypto custodians to include state-chartered trust companies. They want to be able to give everyone the ability to custody crypto. And right now, once again, Ripple has one of the best custody solutions out there. But the reason that they're expanding custody to banks and everyone else is because they want to allow everyone to compete in this space. Because they want to level the playing field for everyone. Even traditional players now want to get involved with custodies. You see it with the banks. They can now handle crypto. Wait until they start offering crypto solutions at the bank. In other words, they will be telling their customers, hey, if you want to get invested into crypto, we can promise you X amount in returns. They're going to have to give incentives first. Because it's like when we talk to someone about crypto, right away, they don't want to hear it. So the bank will give incentives early on for people to get involved with crypto. Then the bank will also custody that crypto for their customers. Or they'll outsource custody to someone like Ripple. That's why custody is so important. And I think we are now seeing who is going to replace Jerome Powell at the Fed. Fed Chair Powell's possible replacement is Kevin Warsh. Says that cryptocurrencies have been misunderstood. It is software, and it would be prudent to use it. Take a listen to this.
What would be your opinion on that? Thank you.
To the question of the central bank digital currency, and then you're going to give me either another question or pull me off stage. We central bankers, I'm a has-been. Central bankers, we're in the wholesale business. We ought not be in the retail business. It is the decision of Congress, the decision of the executive branch. If they want to create a US dollar stable coin, if they want to have a central bank digital currency, that's their decision. And if it's a retail product, I wouldn't very much want the central bank to be too involved in that. I'm worried already that when people are looking for money and they go to the Appropriations Committee and the Appropriations Committee says no, they then come down to the Federal Reserve as if we're the appeals court for fiscal policy. I don't need, when the next crisis comes, for 300 million Americans to have accounts at the central bank. Congress is having a hard time figuring out how to pay for something, and then they just say, well, why don't you guys just fill up those accounts? My view is this whole discussion of cryptocurrency is mostly, I think, misunderstood. This new technology is software. There's nothing secret about it, hence the word crypto. And currency, well, that sounds like money. So this is software. And if our government, the executive branch and Congress say that they want to have a stable coin, that's a wonderful decision for them to make. And the Fed should be playing no role in that. What we should be playing a role in, and have long played a role in, is the wholesale funding model. What happens when this money goes between one bank and another? What happens when the central bank is playing in the interbank market? Well, there's huge reforms that I think can be had and we can move to a system that is more secure, is more reliable, is more instantaneous, and using some of this new technology is certainly a very prudent way to do it. That's in the province of the central bank. Everything else is in the province of the executives.
I think he would be a great replacement for Jerome Powell because he sees cryptocurrency for what it is. And he also sees how it could fix a lot of problems. I also like his stance on a central bank digital currency. If it's a retail CBDC, then the Fed should have no hands in it. And if it's a wholesale CBDC, it's more fitting for the central banks. And he also was sitting down with the Ripple advisory board member. Take a listen to this.
If you were the substitute teacher, I think the main teacher is out of a job now.
Right. I'm not touching that one.
But let me assure you, well, not that main teacher.
You meant Mark.
No, I didn't.
They just were having a lighthearted exchange. But the fact that he's sitting there with the Ripple advisory board member, he most likely already knows the plan going forward. They're going to utilize RLUSD in the United States. I really think that's President Trump's plan. I think that's why he was meeting with Ripple even before he became the president. I think they're also going to have to utilize XRP inside the banking system because the banking system still has a lot of liquidity issues, and XRP could fix those liquidity issues. But the reason I wanted to do this video is because right now we are at the point in crypto where we're about to see institutional adoption, and the banks are now allowed to custody crypto. They're allowed to handle crypto, and we are on the verge of everything changing very quick in the coming months. It's going to start with one big bank, and I think it's going to start with the Fed. That's what's really going to push XRP to those high price points. And you combine that with the ETFs as well, and that institutional adoption. That's why when David Schwartz said a few months back, over the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to see mass institutional adoption. I think he saw it coming as well. And that institutional adoption is what will lead to mass adoption. Everybody always thinks they have to hold XRP to 2030. You could jump out at any time along the way, because I think once XRP finally goes on that massive utility run with the rest of these utility-driven cryptocurrencies, you're going to see gradual upward movement for a long, long period of time. You're going to see pullbacks still, but the pullbacks are not going to be what people are expecting. You know, a lot of people are still calling for a 90% drop on XRP after alt season. I don't think we're going into alt season. I think we're going into a utility run. I think people are going to be calling the top. People are going to be selling and regretting it right after they sell, because the price is going to continue to go higher and higher with adoption happening. That's what I see coming for XRP. I also see it coming for HBAR, XDC, XLM, and so on. Anything that has utility is going to gain a lot of institutional adoption over the coming months. But like I always tell you, until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.